Welcome to the Marcus Freeman Show, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, joined, as always, by the head coach, Marcus Freeman. Coach, the game this week against North Carolina, it seemed like the kind of performance be expected from your team at the beginning of the year, complete on both sides, offense and defense. From your standpoint, what was your biggest takeaway?
Yeah, as you said, we were able to really execute on both sides of the ball, special teams-wise, and that's the performance that you want. And the beauty of it is there's still a lot of room to grow and to teach. That was one of those games you felt good. Again, you felt good after any win. Trust me, what I've learned here in this short period of time is it's hard to win and be grateful for that opportunity to win. You know, it really felt good to see a really dominant performance from our offense, and defensively we played pretty good.
I know it's always great to play at home, but there's something a little bit different about going into someone else's building and getting a win. How satisfying was it to get that first road win as a head coach?
It was awesome. You play a great opponent, a well-coached team. I have the utmost respect for Mac Brown and that North Carolina football team, and to have a quality win over a great opponent was really, really satisfying. You know, it is unique being on the road. You know, the one thing I love about it is there's less distractions, right? It's just really your team, your group, your travel roster going to a place and really focusing on the game and being around each other. And it's one of those things you like about being away.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll break down the entire victory over North Carolina. Welcome back to the Marcus Freeman Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's game breakdown. Coach, we talked going into this game about how tough this test would be. You got to go on the road, play a really skilled team in North Carolina. As you got set to go on that trip down there, what was the real focus and message getting ready for this game?
Really kind of narrow your focus. And really, I had one objective for this group, and that was one, to play harder, right, and to out-execute North Carolina. And that's what I really wanted them to focus on, not so many different things and we got to do this and do that and all these goals and objectives. I said one thing, I want us to play harder than we've ever played, harder than North Carolina, and we have to make sure we worry and focus on execution.
The skill they brought to the table on offense was a huge concern. They scored so many points, and they went for 12 plays, 76 yards on that first drive. As a staff, and from your vantage point, what did you see on that drive that you then were able to use to educate yourself as the rest of the game went along?
Well, one of the points of emphasis was to, try to keep the quarterback in the pocket. In that first drive, he was able to escape and really extend some plays, scrambling. And so it's a fine line being a defensive coordinator and what Coach Golden and I don't want to play spy. I don't want the D-line to spy the quarterback, but understand you have to have rush integrity in your lanes and rush after the quarterback, but stay in your lanes. And so I saw a great adjustment by Coach Washington, our D-line coach, Coach Golden, in terms of still the next series we have a sack with Riley Mills and to be able to still rush relentless after the quarterback, but understand you have to have integrity in your lanes.
You mentioned the sack from Riley. He's really come along. He's a leader on the defensive line. Just what impresses you about his skill set?
He's such a physically big guy that can play really tackle and do multiple different things, and he's playing really well right now. He had 2 sacks last game, playing at a high level and doing well against the run, and so he's constantly improving and is playing really well for this defense.
Next drive, you guys finally get into the end zone, 8 plays, 83 yards. One guy that really popped for me on this drive was Logan Diggs. Had that big 34-yard catch. We'll talk about his touchdown a little bit later, but to see him kind of get in the mix this way this week, that had to really make you excited as the head coach.
Yeah, to get him back off of, he didn't play the week before due to illness, and to get him back and to be able to utilize him in different ways. That's the unique thing about our running back room, is that you got 3 guys that are all out of the running back room. They're able to do different things and have different skill sets. And what Logan presents to our offense in terms of being able to help in the run game and the pass game is a huge asset for us, and what you saw is a reflection of that.
We're going to talk about the scoring play in a second when Michael Mayer got in, but I wanted to just point out, when I was going through making the notes for this game, I forgot to write down Michael Mayer's name because I think I've begun to take him for granted. He had 7 catches, 88 yards. Just what kind of luxury is it to have a weapon like Michael Mayer?
It's unique because you never feel like he's covered, and even when he is covered, you still throw the ball to him and he finds a way to catch it. And the thing you love about Mayer is a lot of times your best player is your best worker. And he sets the standard in terms of how to prepare, and he goes out in the game and he puts it all on the line. And so he's playing at a high level, and he's finding unique ways to improve, and it's surprising to say that, but he's getting better every week.
It's tied at 7 at that point. Defense does another great job, gets you a 3 now. You get the ball back, and then I thought another guy that was great to hear his name this week, Lorenzo Styles, catches the big touchdown pass to give you the 14-7 lead. For him to get in the end zone, how big was that for his confidence to get going?
Oh, it was huge. It's funny, you talk to Lorenzo after after the game, and he said, Coach, I remember seeing we had that exact play call versus that look in practice. And so credit to Coach Reese and Coach Stuckey in terms of the preparation and being able to give them that look. But that's what you have to be able to do, is when you get a chance, your number's called, you have to execute. And for him to do that was huge.
They managed to tie the game at 14. And again, your offense, I thought the story of the day was every time they made a little bit of a push, they had a great drive lined up to be able to answer the bell. The guy on this drive that stuck out was Castaway. Let's talk about his game as a whole. 17 carries, 134. He is so fun to watch. What is working for him right now, and what makes him so productive?
Well, I think you got to start with the offensive line. You know, there is no great running back without a great offensive line, and the offensive line is blocking their tails off and really opening up some holes. And he's a man-child, man. He runs the ball hard, and I don't see many defenders that are excited to hit Castaway, but he's running the ball hard, you know, and again, I know we had the one fumble in the second half, but he's taking care of the football too. And that's what you want to see out of your running backs. Guys that can bulldoze, guys can get those tough yards, but also take care of the football.
Something we've talked about throughout the first 3 games was your defense. Well, they've played, I think, pretty well throughout the year. Didn't have a takeaway. Again, next play, this was the time that they really impacted the game, I thought. They get the fumble on the first snap after that touchdown, keep you great field position. Just how important was that play for JD to get in there and then for Justin to pick up the fumble?
Yeah, JD's first play, obviously in the second half, and coming off of a first half being out from targeting the week before. Well, it was huge to get penetration, but takeaways have been a point of emphasis for this defense, and for them to finally get a return on investment was huge just for our defense to be able to get a takeaway in that moment. It kind of really opened the game and the score, and so that's something we have to continue to do, but it's going to be created from the point of emphasis we have in practice about it.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll step aside and come back with more on the Marcus Freeman Show, presented by TireRack.com. So Riley, I thought the defense against North Carolina had maybe their best performance of the season so far. You guys looked really sharp out there. From your standpoint, just what was the biggest key to that win over the Tar Heels?
Yeah, the biggest key for us was just playing the game on our terms. You know, when we go out there, we want to dictate, we want to set the line of scrimmage. Like every time we're coming off the ball, we want to knock them back. So I would say that was our biggest key, just make sure we're playing to our strengths and doing what we can do.
You had a couple sacks. You got to the quarterback a couple times, and that's always your goal when you're out there. Just from your standpoint, what was enabling you to have so much success against them?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be like a huge shout out to our secondary, like all the guys covering, like they make it possible for me to get sacked because, you know, if the quarterback isn't on a throw to, then, you know, I can go run down there and get a sack. So a big shout out to them, and, you know, especially all the coaches and the staff that have come with the game plan for, you know, to put me in a successful position.
You know, the defense for the first 3 games didn't have a takeaway. I know that was probably a big talking point around the locker room. To finally get that first takeaway, what did it first feel like? And then did it feel like, okay, there's a little bit of weight off our shoulders, now we can go get a few more?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to get the first one, get it rolling, you know, especially with takeaways. But for us, you know, that's just like, we're just starting, like we got to keep going. So we can't let our foot off the gas when we're going for takeaways.
You know, your defensive coordinator from last year is now the head coach. So you got a new guy that's running the show, Coach Golden. Everyone I've talked to has had really great things to say about playing under him. Just from your standpoint now, a month into the season, what's it been like to work under Coach Golden?
Yeah, it's been great. You know, his style of defense is, you know, it's very NFL-like, so, you know, it kind of gives me, you know, exposure to what it's going to be like at the next level and, you know, how to prepare. And, you know, definitely there's a lot of parts to it. Ultimately, I think that helps me become a better player because it lets me think, you know, 2 steps ahead of what the opponent's doing.
I want to ask you about your decision to come to Notre Dame. So go back to before you came here. When you're making the decision on where you wanted to go, what you wanted to do both academically and athletically, why'd you end up choosing Notre Dame?
Yeah, you know, honestly, Notre Dame's the best of both worlds. You know, when you come here, you know, you have top-tier athletics and you have top-tier academics. And, you know, as I was going through my process, you know, there were a lot of schools that maybe, you know, checked one of those boxes, but no one really compared when it came to, like, you know, both aspects. So, you know, when I came here, I was like, you know, I feel like I'm making the best decision for me, and, you know, especially the people here that make the difference. Like, you know, my visit, like, the people here made, like, everything for me. Like, I was like, these people here are great. Like, they make, you know, Notre Dame what it is. So that was just like the big separator between Notre Dame and everywhere else. Now
that you've been here for a while, just what's an area that it's impacted your life that maybe you didn't understand before you got here, but now that you've gone through it, you've been like, okay, wow, that's why Notre Dame is so special.
Yeah, I think just like kind of everything you do, like, you know, especially with class, like you got people like, you know, that want to help you, like want to help you succeed. Like, you know, the Notre Dame staff, like, you know, especially all the academic counselors, like they're trying to put you in the best position possible to succeed in your classes. You know, there's a lot of places where, you know, they may not have that same kind of care for your academics. So that means a lot to me here.
Riley, appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Awesome, appreciate it.
When we come back, we'll have more on the Marcus Freeman Show, presented by TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's edition of Irish Intel, where we go inside the play. Coach, let's start with the defense. Some big plays in this game against North Carolina. Early on, Riley Mills, we've talked about, really dynamic pass rusher, gets the sack. Just talk me through how he does indeed get this sack.
Yeah, well, again, this is the next series after the quarterback kind of scrambled for a lot of yardage that first series. What you see is a twist game on the right side of the screen. You have Foskey coming up and under, which forces the quarterback to scramble outside and Riley looping around. And so this was a great call by Coach Golden, but then you got to make the play. May is a good scrambler, a good escape guy, and for Riley to get him down was a big play for our defense.
So, Coach, this is inside the red zone. If you got Michael Mayer as a target down there, you may as well use him. Just tell me how he gets open for 6.
Well, listen, anytime we get Michael Mayer one-on-one coverage, we're going to throw him the ball. Well, this one is 0-on-1 coverage, so nobody's on him, and he's a guy that we're going to target. He's going to be our first look and our first read, and so he's running wide open. There might have been a miscommunication for them defensively, but he's going to do the rest.
So, Coach, this is a great play design. Lorenzo Styles is going to get free down the field and get his first receiving touchdown of the year. This is a guy everyone's excited to see start producing a little more. Just tell me how he does get open.
Well, I think it's all set up off the run game. We're able to run the ball early in this drive, and that makes the safeties and the DBs a little bit more aggressive. So the run fake here kind of draws the safeties in and makes them flat-footed. Now Zoe's be able to use his speed and run right by them. And again, it's still about the execution. We almost ran out of room right there, but Drew makes a great throw, gives him room to execute. He makes the catch, and 6 points on the board.
So, Coach, this is a fun play to watch as a Notre Dame fan. A wide-open receiver in Logan Diggs down there who makes the catch and walks into the end zone. So just explain to me how the play design gets him so open for the easy score.
Well, as you see, this is a move the pocket play. And you'll see Drew Pine rolling, and you'll see Jared Patterson pulling. So it looks like we're rolling to our right to throw the ball to our right. Logan's able to sneak out of the backfield and become wide open. And I'm sure they have somebody listen for him, but that guy ended up kind of man covering, turning and covering somebody that was going opposite of the play. And so, again, those are one of those plays where you just hold your breath and hope that the throw's there, that he catches the ball, nothing bad happens, and we're able to execute for 6.
So, Coach, here it is. First takeaway of the season, design blitz, J.D. Bertrand gets in there. Just tell me how he does get to the quarterback and ultimately get the ball out.
Yeah, sometimes you can create havoc without actually making the sack or without, blitzing a whole bunch of people, but J.D.'s runs scot-free up the middle here, and what he does is, because we're playing a little bit of zone coverage behind it, makes the quarterback hold the ball. Most of the times when you blitz, you play man coverage. We're playing zone here. Quarterback holds it. I don't know if J.D. truly knocks it out. He gets the forced fumble, but I think the pressure causes him that causes the quarterback to fumble the ball, and Justin Adamiola is in a great position to recover it, and we needed that. That was such a momentum builder. The first play, the second half, we just scored. To give our offense the ball on the 15-yard line was something that, to me, probably a key play in the game.
Welcome back to the Marcus Freeman Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's Look Ahead, where we highlight Notre Dame's upcoming opponent.
It's now time for this week's Look Ahead segment, and as always, we are joined by Bill Reese. Bill, appreciate you taking the time to join us here. Before we get to BYU, which is, of course, is a really exciting matchup I know everyone's excited for in Las Vegas, we got to focus on the game at North Carolina from what's now 2 weeks ago after the bye week. Really, from my vantage point, the most complete performance of the year from Notre Dame on both sides of the ball to go on the road and get the win they got. Just generally, what was your takeaway from that performance, and how big was it to get that one before the bye week?
It was really a good team win, like you said. It was offense, defense, special teams had an effect on the game as well. And, it was just, a good overall performance. Offensively, we were able to be balanced and run the ball and throw it. Defensively, got great pressure on their young quarterback, really shut down their running game. So all in all, it was really a great win, great team win.
There's so many guys we could focus on. The first guy I want to talk about is the quarterback, Drew Pine, because after maybe a slow first quarter against Cal, he looks to have really settled in. You look at the numbers, super efficient, 24 for 34, 289, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, this is really the kind of quarterback I think a lot of people with the team think he can be. How has he settled in from your vantage point?
Well, I think that's a good word. He has really started to settle in. He's becoming more comfortable playing in the offense, playing as the number one quarterback. And that, takes some time to get used to. And, I think he got off to, a good start once, we got the balance of the run and the throw passing game going. He did some really good things with his reads, getting the ball down the field, finding Michael Mayer, just all the things that he needs to be really efficient. And he really did a good job doing all those things.
You mentioned Michael Mayer, who's Mr. Consistent for this team. I want to ask, though, about a receiver that I think everyone was excited to see pop, and that was Lorenzo Styles with that big touchdown catch. He's someone who on the outside, I think, adds a totally different dynamic to this offense if he and Drew can develop that rhythm. How big was it for him to just get himself into the end zone, maybe get some of that more confidence going forward?
It really was big because, he's been used in a variety of ways so far early in the season, and it's good to see him just pierce the defense, get down the field, make a big catch. He's an explosive athlete. He, too, is gaining more and more confidence. And, I think he'll have a really big second half of the season.
We could talk about all three running backs, but let's start with Audric Estime. I mean, when he gets the ball and puts his head down, it doesn't seem like anybody wants to tackle him right now. Over 100 yards, was really effective when he got the ball. What's working so well for him right now, and how have you seen him develop here in his second season?
I think there are a number of North Carolina defenders that didn't want any more of Audric because he was just punishing guys. He's just getting more comfortable as well. He's gotten more and more carries. It's like anything else. When a running back starts to be comfortable and gets a feel for how the game is unfolding, he gets more carries. He becomes more productive. And I think you saw that with Audric. And it's true with everybody else, with Chris and with Diggs. All three of those guys, they've got a lot of talent and can help us in a lot of different ways.
I wanted to ask about Logan Diggs because it's somebody that's coming back from injury, and he was really featured heavily in this game in the passing game. And now when you have three backs that have those different skill sets, it gives the offense a lot of different opportunities and options when dialing up plays. So to have him show up, what kind of added element does that bring to this offense going forward?
Well, Logan's very talented. He's very talented as a runner, receiver. He's just getting back into shape a little bit too, coming off of that shoulder and just, again, getting more game reps, getting in better game condition. All three of the backs really catch the ball well. We're really fortunate to have that dimension with all three of the backs. And Chris Tyree is probably one of the best route runners of guys that we have. He just is so versatile, we can move him around. But it's true that all three of them can contribute in a lot of different ways, running the ball, catching, blocking. We're fortunate to have all three of those guys.
Let's look at the other side of the ball, because I remember we talked about 2 weeks ago getting ready for this game, and the focus was, of course, North Carolina, I think, going into the game, averaging over 50 points. They hung up that, of course, 63-point performance on Appalachian State. They have tons of skill on the outside, and you saw them come out, have that 12-play, 76-yard drive, and you could understand why there'd be concern. And then the rest of the way, the defense, to me, just looked phenomenal. They forced a lot of key 3-and-outs. They got off the field when they had to, and I thought, importantly, they got that first takeaway of the season as well. Generally, the defense, what'd you think about that performance, and then how big was it just to get that weight off the shoulders to finally have a takeaway on the year?
Well, a lot of times in the first series of the game, because it's scripted, the offense might have a little bit of an advantage sometimes. And, to give North Carolina credit, May was hot. He made some really good throws, made some good runs, got us a little bit off balance. And that was really their key drive of the game. And I think once we got the ball, we punted, they got the ball back. We had good field position and really did a nice job of adapting and adjusting to what they were doing. Really, the front played very well. The back end did a really good job. They were very well coordinated on what they were doing and when they were stunning. And, all in all, it was a good game. There were a couple of plays I know they wanted to have back. They were late in the game, but, those things happen with sometimes when you have a big lead.
Last guy I'm going to ask about before we shift our focus to BYU is just Riley Mills. You mentioned how the secondary was strong. I actually talked to him on the show this week. He gave the secondary a lot of credit for the 2 sacks he had, which if he speaks to that 11-man unit working together. But his development, he just seems like he continues to get better every time he gets on the field. What makes him so special, and what did you see on those 2 sacks from him?
Well, Riley's still a relatively young player. He's a true junior. Very gifted physically, has tremendous position versatility where he can play inside and outside. And when they match him up on an opponent's offensive lineman that, they feel isn't as good a pass protector, gives Riley, a lot of opportunity to rush. He has very natural rush ability. He uses his hands well. He's got power, and he's got a great burst up the field. So, that was a good breakout game for him. We're going to need more games like that from him as we, move throughout, through the schedule.
All right, let's move our way towards BYU then. This, of course, is a game that's been on everyone's radar for a variety of reasons coming up this weekend. It's, of course, in Las Vegas, great new NFL stadium, and you've got BYU, who is an independent team for the final year here, so there's some parallels there. They're 4-1 this year. Their only loss came to Oregon, and you look at what they've done here the last couple seasons, 4 straight bowls, a couple of double-digit wins back-to-back years. Kalani Sitake, their head coach, has really done a nice job making this one of the more consistent programs in the country. So as Notre Dame prepares for BYU, what jumps out when you look at them?
Well, there are a number of things. They've really played well against big opponents, and they beat Utah a year ago. They're 5-1 versus the Pac-12 over the last couple of years. So, they match up very well. They have as good as skilled positions and linemen as, just about they can compare to a lot of different programs, top programs in the country. And obviously they have, older players in their program, and that gives them an advantage. But they're well coached. They're a tough, hard-nosed, aggressive football team. There's been really close, tough, hard-fought games with Notre Dame in the past, and I would expect this one to be very similar.
Their quarterback, Jaron Hall, averaging 70% completion on the year, 12 touchdowns, 1 pick. So he's been really good with handling the ball. Just when you've watched him or seen him on film, when the staff has looked at him and tried to prepare for him, what does he do well when running the offense for BYU?
Well, he's really impressive. And he's going to play, I think, far beyond BYU. He has that kind of ability. He's a guy who's comfortable in the pocket. He's comfortable running the football. He's comfortable when he has to scramble and throw. But his accuracy, his arm talent is for real. He does a really good job of getting rid of the ball. And up front, they're really doing a great job of pass protecting. When you put on the film, no one's really getting close to him, or very rarely get close to him. So he has a nice, clean pocket to throw from. They're huge up front. And, he's got really good weapons, not only out of the backfield, but at wide receiver.
Let's talk about a couple of the weapons. Let's start at wide receiver with Keanu Hill, who's their leading receiver as far as yards. Anytime you see a guy like that, you're always worried about how do you contain him, make sure he doesn't make big plays that can hurt you with chunk yardage in this game. When you've seen him, how do you contain a guy with his skill set on the outside?
Well, unfortunately, Hill's probably their third receiver. If they were going to, talk about their 2 guys that have been hurt, Romney and Nuka, who are, were their keynote guys a year ago. And Hill's done a terrific job stepping up. He's big, he's physical, he's made big plays for them. So when those 2 guys have been out, he's really stepped up, done an outstanding job for them. They've got 4 or 5 receivers that are all very good. And that, poses a problem when you mix in, they're all over 6'2", for the exception of one guy. So, the Hills, the Nukas, the Romneys are all 6'2" plus. So that'll be a real challenge for our defensive backs to, not let them go up in high point balls.
On the other side of the ball, when you look at them defensively, just from a schematic standpoint and what they try to do to make things difficult for their opponents, what will we see on Saturday? And then what kind of challenges can they present for Notre Dame in this contest?
Well, unofficially, we counted, and, it could be off a few number here or there, but they played over 34 players on defense last week against Utah State. So they're really deep. They're going to play a lot of different combinations of defensive linemen, linebackers, but they're big and physical, and they bring an aggressive demeanor to the game. They're going to, try to, slug it out with you. They're going to try to, make it really difficult for you to move them. They've got really good linebackers, guys that can fill, run, cover. So that's a real challenge for our offensive line and our running backs going into this week.
The last one I have for you, Bill, is just kind of about the pomp and circumstance surrounding this game and the opportunity it is, of course, for the team. You think about everything that goes into it. It's a game in an NFL stadium that's, of course, new, and it's a beautiful facility. It's in Las Vegas. It's going to be in prime time on national television. I know Coach Freeman was quick to point out it's going to be a business trip, and there won't be any of that riffraff the team could possibly get into, but still, it's a unique and special opportunity for the team to play in this kind of environment. As a program, what does this mean to play in the Shamrock Series in this kind of environment against a program like this in prime time?
Well, the Shamrock Series is unique to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's been very successful playing, in this series as we go all over the country, and it gives us a chance to, really present our program and like you say, be on national TV, go all over the country. There are going to be a lot of fans there from Notre Dame. There are a lot of people coming over from California to see the game. We really enjoy playing in NFL stadiums. That's something that, we really sell in recruiting and really talk about that, we play in a lot of different venues, and that's very unique. And, playing out in Vegas is going to be special as well. So it's going to be, a good game, tough opponent, but, it's going to be exciting for our players to go out west and play.
Well, Bill, as always, I appreciate the time and looking forward to watching the game on Saturday as well.
Thanks, Tony.
We now present the highlights from a recent Coach Freeman press conference.
Coach, I wondered if you could update us on the progress, injury progress from DJ Brown and Ramon Henderson. Did those guys end up practicing this week?
Yep, both of them practiced the last 2 days, more yesterday than they did on Tuesday. Would expect them both to play.
Next question will be from Pete Sampson.
Marcus, talking to Jared Patterson and Tommy Reese a little bit, the concept of, 5 guys playing one set of eyes comes up. I wanted to turn that around as a defensive coordinator by trade and a linebacker. When an offensive line is doing that, like, what are the telltale signs when you see on tape as a more defensive minded guy that tells you that, okay, this line is one that is sort of locked in and playing in that 5 guys as one concept?
Yeah, I think it's you understand there's going to be some consistency in what you see, and there's pros and cons to every, scenario. And there's some thoughts in the thought of rotating guys and keeping them fresh, but there's also a thought in having consistency with the guys you have in there. And that's what I think you see in our offensive line is they're continuing to improve because it's a consistency in knowing who's in the game, who's beside you, the ability to work together. And there's also a confidence I think it builds in your quarterback. And so I've been really pleased with the development of our O-line. There's a change in coaching, a change in philosophy in terms of their position coach doesn't just, create a magical picture overnight. But what you've seen is over the course of the 4 games and now this bye week is that they're continuously improving. They're playing at a very high level.
Next question will be from Matt Freeman.
Hey, Marcus, just a quick question. Can you update the status of Jacob Lacey with the program?
Yeah, he's no longer part of the team. He'll look to transfer probably at the end of the season after the semester's over. And that's about it.
Any more questions, please use the raise hand function. Next question will be from Len Clark.
Marcus, can you just give us some insight into your pregame rituals? What goes through your mind, and what's it like to be the head coach as opposed to being a player? What is your game day rituals? I think our fans would be interested in that.
Yeah. I get to the stadium, and again, home and away are 2 different things. And this is a home game for us, but it's going to be away in terms of what you're doing pregame. And an away game, you'll go and I'll do a radio show and go back in the locker room and look over really just, the keys to victory, the last minute reminders for myself as the head coach, the things we got to emphasize. I'll end up meeting with the referees and I'll have some points of emphasis I've had from watching film or our coaching staff has brought up to me that I'll meet with the referees about. And you go out to the field, you meet the opposing coach, and then you get ready to warm up and you go. And so for me, there's definitely a process of and a consistency in what I do. If it's a home game, the majority of the pregame is meeting with recruits and spending time with those guys before I meet with the refs and then go out for pregame and stretch. And so at that point, man, it's really just about how the last couple of things you want to say to your team before you take the field. But it's time to go. There's nothing really that you're going to say the moment before you walk out of the locker room that's going to, help them play any better. The performance is a reflection of the way we prepared all week. And so it's really now just kind of letting this time wind down and let's go and get this game started.
We'll go back to Eric Hansen.
Coach, I just wanted to check on Bryce McPherson. I know at the beginning of the season, you're pretty excited about what he might be able to bring at least to the kickoff game and so forth. I know Zach Yoakum's done a great job, but I was just seeing if Bryce is healthy and if at least he's competing.
He's finally healthy. And really, Eric, what we did is I think we were having to probably do a little bit too much in terms of punting and kickoffs, which would ultimately lead to the strain of his hip flexor growing area. But he's healthy now. And so we kind of just said, let's let him focus on punting right now until, his body's in a position after a year of training in the weight room with Coach Bayless to be able to handle punts and kickoffs. So we haven't done kickoffs with him, just really focusing on punts. Right now, we're really pleased with how John Sott is punting the ball, but Bryce will travel and he'll be the backup punter.
Again, if there are any questions, please use the raise hand function. This will be the last call for questions. We'll go to Pete Sampson.
Mark, this is another offensive line question. When we were talking to Zeke Correll a couple weeks ago, we're discussing sort of that wraparound linebacker blitz of the A-gap, identification of it. It was something that you guys struggled with early, but much better late. Like, what's been better about picking that up? And again, I guess as a defensive coordinator, why is that a challenging pressure sometimes for lines to pick up?
Well, I think the biggest challenge, if you don't know what's coming, it's hard to adjust in time and be able to pick it up, But what I think they're doing a good job is trying to see some pre-snap tells and it's a double-edged sword for the defense, right? And you don't want to give it away, but a lot of times if you don't cheat your alignment a little bit, you'll never get to the quarterback. You'll never, hit the blitz fast enough where you can be effective. And so you try to give it away just a little bit. Well, our offensive line, and Zeke in particular, is doing a much better job being able to identify it. And when you know it's coming, then you got a better chance to pick it up.
Go back to Len Clark.
Marcus, you alluded to Matt Bayless. Can you talk about what he has contributed to help your team, especially with this 8-week gauntlet coming up?
Coach Bayless is a rock star, man. He is a guy that truly implements the culture you want as a head coach, the mindset. It's so much more than just lifting weights. And, what he's able to do in terms of challenging a group of football players in that weight room mentally and physically and really being an extension of me. And the ability for me and him to connect every single day to talk about, where we see our guys at as a team, as individuals. We look at every player and say, hey, tomorrow we need to back off this guy or this guy needs to be pushed a little bit more so he can hit a certain miles per hour in terms of, how fast he's running. So we really spend a lot of time together to really look at the physiological side of our players, but also the mental side of where their mindset is.
Final question this afternoon will come from Patrick Engel.
Marcus, on Jacob leaving, assuming you want to keep the defensive line rotation at the size it is, who do you kind of look at as someone who you might task with a little bit more on their plate or ask to play some more snaps there without Jacob?
Yeah, I think you'll see Chris Smith playing a little bit more, who again, it's just a position that's extremely deep. And the deepest tackle position right now is one of the deepest positions we have on our team. And so Chris Smith will play a little bit more, but you'll see a guy like Gabe Rubio playing more. Jason Anye will now probably move from scout team. He's moved from scout team to, getting reps with the defense. And so, again, Lacey was a great player. Lacey did a lot of great things for us, but it's a deep position. And he made a decision that ultimately he felt was best for him. And we respect it. We love Jacob. And, the best thing about it is he leaves here with a degree in his hand. And that's what I want for these young men, is that if you decide to leave in hopes of going somewhere and playing more, don't waste this opportunity to earn a degree from this university. And so he did that. But, again, you'll see Chris Smith play more. You'll see Gabe Rubio for sure. Both of those two play a lot more.
Coach, you got the win to go to 2-2 headed into the bye week. Thought it was a really big win for you guys to get that momentum. But what'd you do with the extra week as a coaching staff, as a team, to prepare yourself for the final 8 games of the year?
Well, I think the number one objective for the bye week was, one, to continue to improve as a team. How do you improve with a game, with not having a game that week, and that was a challenge. And we had really good practices Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and really physical practice. And I do feel like we improved. The second part was to physically and mentally recover. We had some guys that were injured that we have to get physically back, but also mentally. We have to kind of be able to, you don't have a game to mentally drain yourself about. You get to really just focus on practice and go and be a normal student after that. And that was important. And then 3, I said no distractions. I want to make sure we have no distractions, that we'll continue to gain this momentum that we have. And so I was pleased with the bye week. Coaches were able to get on the road on Monday, Thursday, and Friday and do some recruiting and continue to build this program the right way. But we definitely benefited from the bye week. And here we go for this 8-week span.
October 8th has been a date that's been circled on this calendar for a while. It's going to be an awesome time. I think you get a chance to go out to Vegas, play in a great NFL facility. You also have a really good opponent that you're going to have to play in BYU. What's the biggest challenges you get set for this big week?
Well, I think, being able to play in a Shamrock Series game is one of our distinctions, right, at Notre Dame, and that you can play a home game away from home. And to play in a place like Las Vegas, where there's going to be a tremendous amount of Notre Dame fans, is extremely exciting. It's really cool for our guys in this program, but we're facing a really good opponent and a mature team that has a lot of returning starters, that is led by the quarterback. Quarterback's a good player that's going to present a lot of issues, and we're going to have our work cut out for us. 4-1 team that we have to prepare, and to make sure that we put our best foot forward going out on Saturday.
Coach, appreciate it. Good luck. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Marcus Freeman Show, presented by TireRack.com.